I've been working on a 3D printing project for creating tangible cityscapes for the blind and visually impaired community, and I just want to show you what I have so far. So if you look at something like this, so this right here, let's give you a little close up. So this right here is essentially a 3D printed replica of an urban uh, environment. So this is the city of Chicago, and the idea here is a blind person through touch and feel can not only understand the height and scale of buildings in an urban setting, but also just get a sense of which areas of the city are busy, which ones are not, and just understand like the urban density of a city or a certain area. So as a blind person, you can simply just like feel what is going on here. And especially for a city like Chicago, you will see or feel some very tall buildings, right? So this is just a way of understanding what a city is made up of, what it comprises of, etc. So here's where you can just get a feel of the city and its like urban density. But then also, so once you have felt like a larger area, perhaps you want to kind of quote unquote zoom in on a very specific area or a block. So as an example, so this right here is Sears Tower. So maybe I want to understand more clearly and in more detail what the surrounding area of Sears Tower looks like. So that's when, and maybe on this larger cityscape, I can highlight that one specific block in a colored like outline, and that's when we can also print a more detailed uh, uh, 3D model of that one specific block, right? So now instead of getting a general sense of what the whole city might look like, now I'm looking at a very specific block, a very specific area. So once again, I can touch and feel it. And this is where, because it's Sears Tower, now we get a sense of how huge this building is, right? It's like, holy smokes, this one is way up in the air, and the rest of the buildings in the vicinity around it, they're maybe half of its size or even less. So again, just an idea around how we can use 3D printing to really understand what a city looks like, what different pockets of a city may comprise of. So here's one version of it. Here's another version. So it's a little cleaner. So I'm just like experimenting with things. Broke the antenna of Sears Tower here. So here's another flavor of it. And then the third version, so this is, it's the same thing, but it's a little scaled up. It looks larger. And you'll also notice that we are using different colors here as well. So this is where anyone who is who has partial sight, they can perhaps like identify colors. For them, these colors could be helpful. So as an example, these pink buildings could be government buildings, or they can be like entertainment centers and things like that. So it's just a way of using color to label different landmarks, different buildings, different areas, etc. But again, the idea is that we are zooming in on a certain block or a very specific point, and then understanding it through touch and feel. So that's what I've been up to. So just the idea of using 3D printing as a means of exploration and tangible exploration, especially for the visually impaired community. And I also feel like this is where we can use something like 3D printing for inclusivity, right? So when it comes to access to information and access to knowledge, we can make sure that we bring that information to everyone in the community and not just like the fully sighted, able-bodied, privileged people. So this is where 3D printing could be very helpful in a classroom setting, especially where you can just print these out and have students and kids just explore them through tactile ways. And the other thing is, this is such a it's such a great example of innovation in accessibility, right? So again, 3D printing has been around for a while, but you can use your imagination to see what else we can do with it and how we can make a lot of things a lot more accessible to anyone involved in the community. Plus, 3D printing is becoming so much more affordable, so it makes it so much more easier now to bring this level of, like, call it playfulness or exploration or just like access to knowledge and information to a spectrum of people out there, especially in the disability community. So having said that, now again, this is a work in progress. This is an experiment. So another thing that I do want to do here is I would love to add some texture to some of these like buildings and landmarks, etc. So as an example, like I said, so this right here is Sears Tower. This right here is John Hancock Building. And here's this newer building with a design flaw because of which they had to keep 2 floors empty. And then here's the Chicago River. Oops, sorry. Here's the Chicago River flowing into the Lake Michigan. So I would love to label some of these like important buildings or landmarks, points of interest with different textures. So that's what I'll do next. I'll add some texture to some of these like buildings. And for that, again, experimenting with different textures. So this is something that I have been printing as well. So, so just examples of different textures that can be used for like identifying different landmarks and objects and whatnot. And fun fact, so all of this is printed using generative AI. So I used like ChatGPT and Claude to print these out, which means that it was very little work in terms of using my motor skills, right? So because a lot of these things, we use software like AutoCAD or Tinkercad, etc., and they involve a lot of like mouse clicks and keyboard shortcuts. So for anyone who may not have such great motor skills, they can use generative AI to, do things with 3D printing. Happy to share more in a different video on how I'm creating these. So anyway, like I'll stick them onto some of these landmarks and see how we can improve this. One last thing, just want to highlight some of the errors that I made. So if you notice, this is the Lake Michigan, right? But it has some of these like weird textures. So this is just me, like these are blunders made by me, blunders in Blender, the software that I used for it. This one also, this is not very clean. I'm pretty sure I can work more on creating like a little cleaner version of it. But for the most part, I mean, the purpose of these 3 models is tactile exploration, right? So for that purpose, I think they do a pretty good job. Anyway, so this is what I wanted to share with all of you, and I'll continue to work on them. But please do share some ideas and suggestions, and let me know what else we can do here. I would love to learn more from all of you. But yeah, meanwhile, I'll keep experimenting, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.